Welcome to the Second and Short Emergency Podcast. My name is Eli.
And I'm Hayden. So, emergency, yes. That's actually funny enough how I was going to intro it too. With that said, we're still...
Delayed emergency.
Yeah. We're a few days late.
That's contradicting itself.
But a bonus episode. First time ever we're doing 2 official episodes in 1 week. It is obviously the 2 of us, which means we're going to be talking college football because we don't want to hear Naples' opinions on that. We already have to suffer through hearing what he has to say about the Browns. I'm sure he's going to rope in some Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders bullcrap today. For now, just you and me, we have to talk about Penn State football. We've already talked we've talked a lot.
Yeah,
we've
just this week too.
Yeah, we've gauged where Penn State's at, where each other are at as a diehard fan, as a pseudo fan. You were actually here when James Franklin got fired, and your immediate reaction was
surprise, but not shock, but surprise. I think it had to happen. I thought they were going to wait a week because they have a bye week, and they're going into Iowa at night with a freshman quarterback in his first start. So it's set up for failure this week. I thought they'd kind of let Franklin dig his grave even deeper this week and then give the interim bye week. But maybe it was like, let's just rip the Band-Aid and not give him a chance to win. But, I mean, this week is going to be – it's just set up for failure. And even with Franklin, it was set up for failure.
You also run the risk of a Billy Napier, Florida situation happening where all of a sudden you coach yourself back into the job, which happened last year with Florida. And so far we're off
Almost happened with him beating Texas, but then just right back.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. We'll shift the conversation back to Penn State or back to James Franklin and the coaching search. For now, though, Drew Aller, he's out for the year. His Penn State's career is over. I posed you the question, and I think it's a really good question, where his legacy stands, because he took the team to the semifinals, which is huge last year. With that said, you look at the other quarterbacks in the Franklin era, I don't think his legacy touches that. I think Trace McSorley is ahead of him. Sean Clifford, the guy who fans were clamoring to get benched and run him out of town, Sean Clifford's the Nittany Lion all-time leading passer. I'm taking Clifford over him as well, which then leaves Christian Hackenberg, which at first thought you say Drew Aller took the team to the semis. Christian Hackenberg, he led the team to 8 wins once. With that said, I would argue Christian Hackenberg's freshman season with Billy O'Brien was better than any of the 4 Drew Aller seasons that we saw.
Yeah, I think that's the main point is Drew took them farther, but it was different situations. Hack was out of the sanctions and with Billy O.B. and those guys, Hackley left a bad taste because he was such a big NFL prospect, and it was almost like Penn State fans felt that they were lied to when we saw Hackenberg not be able to complete a screen pass and like just airmail screen passes, and people were saying no, he's a top prospect in the NFL. So that was like, it is what it is. Drew Aller, I think, will leave a worse taste in the mouth because of mainly this year. But also, like, the main issue with Cliff was he couldn't win a big game, which then it transferred to Drew, which obviously the common stay that everybody says is Franklin. So I think Drew leaves a worse taste. I get. So, like, the big thing with NIL now, I was even talking to a Michigan fan at work, and I was talking about Bryce Underwood, and I was like, I don't know how you can be disappointed with Underwood. And he was like, well, he hasn't been good on the road. And I was like, yeah, he's a freshman. He's like, I would say that before NIL. NIL, I don't think is an excuse to not feel like crap for some of these kids. Mm-hmm. Like Drew, I just like, I cannot imagine emotionally what he has been going through the past couple of weeks. Like to have the rise of, well, one, to throw that interception against Notre Dame. Then have the rise of the offseason, honestly, and the build-up. Then to throw that interception against Oregon, gutted. That's all right. He's coming back against UCLA, gutted. That's all right. You know what? Scrap it. Let's try to ball out. And then not a great game against Northwestern. We can get into that throw, which I am totally blaming on Kotelnicki.
So we off that train now, or we're going to recognize that he's not a good offensive mind?
So I just had this, again, we're going to bounce around a ton here. I just had a conversation with my dad. If they bring in a coach who has all right, Kotelnicki is coaching for his job right now at Penn State. and it's gonna be was Franklin holding you back?
I think he's gone regardless. I think
I think it depends on who you get. If you're the guy you get is a proven OC, Kotelnicki I still think has a lot of respect from coaches in the game. So if a coach that comes in and thinks, I think there's some head coaches that they could get that could be like, you know what, Kotelnicki's better than my guy. If they bring in a option quarterback, you can't do this air raid. Like that's the big issue with James, is he was not in line with who his coordinators were and what his personnel was. And Kotelnicki's coaching for his job. If they get a Bo-esque quarterback, a Trace-esque quarterback, I think Kotelnicki's fine. It's just like it's just weird stuff where I really do wonder if it's Franklin or a running back coach or saying we need to get this guy involved. So the first drive against Northwestern last week, right? They go down the field, they get a block punt, go down, 2nd and 2 from the 12. Katron is running all over Northwestern. 2nd and 2, they throw a back shoulder pass to Liam Clifford. Like, what is that?
All right,
so,
Liam
Clifford runs the wrong route.
No slander for
Liam Clifford runs the wrong route, doesn't box his guy out, and then it's on Drew for still throwing that
we
ball.
know it's the wrong route.
Just watch the play. Blue and White Illustrated did a great breakdown. It was a bad route, the wrong route, and Drew still throws it. So it's still totally on Drew. What is that play call? You're running down their throats. Second drive, Katron's still in, right? That's what Penn State fans have been clamoring for. Goes down the field, touchdown, beautiful drive. Third drive, they bring in Nick. And it's like, why? Is it Franklin saying we need to get Nick involved? There's no, what in the world are you thinking? And a 3 and out, and then Northwestern muffs a punt, and Penn State scores with Nick on 4th and goal from the 2. But it's like, I don't get it.
So one more player comment, and then we'll pivot over to the coaching search just because we are on a timer. You said Penn State fans felt lied to about Hackenberg. I felt lied to about Aller. What you described with Drew Aller is exactly how I think other people are viewing this situation with Hackenberg compared to Haller. Yeah, all the talent in the world, all the size in the world, he can't make the simple throws. He can't. No.
I'm worse.
Nick Singleton, 5-star runner. All this bullcrap that we've been fed. No, Trace McSorley had this team kicking better. It's ridiculous.
And this is maybe the same issue. Penn State let down Drew. I don't think Drew let down Penn State. And maybe that's like a mindset of I'm always anti-coach because I think coaches are the ones that are putting their players in the best situation. He's not in the right scheme. I think Drew got let down. He might not be a good quarterback, but this system wasn't for him. He was best, including against Northwestern this past week. He was best when he was not playing quarterback. He was scrambling and totally just improvising, which is sad because you have an air raid quarterback, but you have an option system. I don't know. Drew might be a bad quarterback, and it looks like he is, but Penn State didn't help him in the least bit.
And I agree. There's tons of blame to go around here, but that is a problem that I have with, especially in the NFL. We just assume everybody's getting screwed over. No, there are times where a quarterback goes to a different situation because situations are huge, especially for the quarterback play. But we also use that as kind of the bailout for all of these kids, whether it's a 5-star or a first-round pick. If he was in a better situation, no. Yeah, sometimes he just sucks.
Yeah.
And I agree, Drew was not put in great situations. The offense does not fit him. With that said, out of all the stuff that was out of his control that went wrong, there was a lot that was in his control that was just straight up awful.
No doubt. But I do think it's more decision making than arm talent, so to say. But there are throws that he misses, and like you said, that they against Northwestern roll out. It's you just got to hit Nick Singleton in the chest and the flat, and he throws it at his feet. That is awfully bad. But a lot of the times it's why are you throwing against in Notre Dame? He throws it across the middle, interception. The Oregon interception was disgusting. So I do think decision making's bad, but I feel gutted for him. That's terrible.
But that's another thing. You can feel bad for the kid, and still recognize, hey, you were part of the problem.
It's not to say nobody should slander Drew because you should feel bad for him. It's both can happen.
Which same thing. There is a human element to it. So.
And same thing with Franklin. It's again, I think the money aspect. I don't. it's all for jokes when people are like, oh, he could never, like, I wish I was a fired coach. But it's like the emotional. Franklin was there for 12 years. He was literally, it was said in the press conference, in the house of probably all of the kids, 90% of the kids who are in that locker room. Like, I can't imagine.
His daughters were raised there.
That sucks. Whether you're getting 48 mil or not, like, that sucks. And when you're a coach, we talk about the NFL quarterback mindset of you have to be like sort of a jerk and like elevated and nobody like
you're a CEO.
Right. People say, oh, the backup quarterback position in the NFL would be a blast. It's like, no, because those backup quarterbacks have a different mindset than us and they want to win and they want the chance. They don't want to just sit there. And it's the same thing with the head coach. He wants to win an Natty. He talked a lot about people gave him some crap for it, being the first African-American coach to win a national championship. Like, he was big on that. I feel bad for him, but it's the right move.
Yeah.
Again, same thing. Both things can be true. You can feel bad for him and say that he wasn't the right guy.
I think that this could be a situation. I'm going to use this to pivot into more of the coaching scenario. We saw this with Andy Reid, and I think it is a perfect example. Andy Reid was a coach who was like fringe Hall of Fame with Philadelphia. There was a narrative that he couldn't get it done. Philadelphia moves on from him, and it ended up being best for both. Philly, since moving on from him, they've had 4 head coaches, but they've been to 3 Super Bowls, winning 2 of them. Andy Reid, though, he leaves. Now he's in the argument not of a fringe Hall of Fame coach, of being the greatest coach of all time. So things can be mutually beneficial. I think that there are current examples of this in the NFL with John Harbaugh and the Ravens and Mike Tomlin with the Steelers. Penn State and James Franklin, it's a little bit different. It's a lot harder of a road than it is in the NFL because one of the things that makes the NFL great is the parity. College football, there are only a few select programs that can win a national championship. I'm not ready to say James Franklin will never win a national championship. I could see this being mutually beneficial for both sides.
I definitely agree that it could be mutually beneficial. I don't know about the national championship thing for James. At least at his next spot, unless it's Florida, and I think that.
Who's a better coach, him or Ed Orgeron? And I get it, that 2019 LSU team is one of the greatest of all time.
Right.
But
I don't think that he gets. I don't think Franklin gets an LSU level. I think Florida's really the only. I don't think he gets.
This time around, though.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying it could be mutually beneficial. I think he'll. If I'm Maryland, I'm firing Loxley tomorrow and giving Franklin what he wants, which is probably a discount based on his buyout. VT, I think, would like if someone in the DMV area or PA area hires him, he's going to probably have one of the best recruiting classes that your school has ever seen because he's going to take all those guys that he recruited at Penn State, specifically in the 2027 class.
This is Matt Rule's job.
I mean, it's
right?
It's like the most obvious. It's the most obvious thing in the world that you're like they're literally buddies, him and Kraft. He's Penn Stater through and through.
When they asked him about it, he didn't even try to deny it.
No, he said, oh, I love Penn State. I met my wife there. I was probably born in a Penn State shirt. Me and Pat are buddies.
I appreciate
love
James
Nebraska.
Franklin. Yeah, plus,
and we're building something.
Him and Pat, they have a working history, so it's more than just a relationship.
Right.
There's a working history
because he was the AD for him at one time.
A lot of people are like, "Oh, Raiola still has eligibility." I hope Raiola, I would love Matt Rule to go to Penn State. I hope Raiola stays at Nebraska because that's still one of my favorite stories of college football. Saying, you know what, I'm not going to do the typical top elite program and say I'm going to go to where my family has ties, both my dad and my uncle, and I'm going to try and rebuild that program.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. It's Rule's job.
Speaking of father, you're good.
It's Rule's job to turn down, in my opinion, unless there's two things. One, Rule is totally emotionally tied to Nebraska, or two, the friendship issues are the reason to not do it, which I don't think is the case, but that would be the
friendship
one thing.
With Kraft or Franklin?
Yeah, and Kraft's on Kraft's side too of if they're best buddies, it's like maybe that's a reason they don't do it. But again, it's it's so obvious that it's him.
Yeah. And in this industry, you're friends until you're not. So, it's a cynical way of looking at things, but also we see...
I'm sure Franklin and Kraft would have said they were buddies.
Yeah, things happen all the time. whether it's players and coaches, players and players, coaches and coaches, everybody's good until they're not. Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban, they were good until they weren't. Baker Mayfield and OBJ were good until they weren't. Big Ben and AB were good until they weren't. So
I slept at my parents' today, and my dad had on Blue White Illustrated, which is like the main thing he watches about Penn State, and he was giving me the rundown of what they said so far. And the main thing is they went back and they were watching a ton of old press conferences, just picking apart like signs. Could they get a sign? Could they get a reason? And the big thing a lot of Penn State fans are pointing to, and these reporters, even in Pat Kraft's press conferences, he mentioned the transfer portal so many times and how we need to be more aggressive in the portal. And the guys were saying that last year, Kraft mentioned we need to be more aggressive in the portal in February, specifically at receiver. Whether it worked out or not, a month later, Penn State went and got 3 receivers in the portal. So it's like it sounds like they didn't see eye to eye. Franklin was more of a loyalist, which is very nice, right? It's a nice thing to do, to say, I want my guys in the locker room to be cohesive. I want the locker room to get along. I don't want there to be mix-up. I want the guys that have stayed for 2 years that now have their opportunity, get their opportunity. But in today's world, you can't do that. You're going to get passed up if you're not crazy aggressive in the portal, because other teams are going to get better while you might have a guy that's been there for 3 years and there's a reason he hasn't been starting for 3 years.
So I do want to get through a couple things before everybody gets here. First off, is this the best available job at this time?
Yeah.
I agree. It is an interesting one just because you have just as much, if not more money than everybody else.
Yeah.
But the expectations are weird because the expectations are up there with the Bamas and the Georgias. But in reality, this is a team that hasn't been elite of the country since the 90s. Like Ohio State having those expectations, that's one thing. They were in the 14 playoff. Alabama, of course, you have Nick Saban. Georgia, Kirby Smart. Sure. Penn State hasn't been up to they're right below them, but they haven't. But the expectations are still up there. So it is interesting, but with all the money, it's
as a fan. Here's the difference with the expectations, though. This year was a one-off. My expectations prior to this year weren't a national championship. Like this year, it was national championship. So that in that case, yes, it might be unfair for Penn State fans to have this expectation. The past 4 or 5 years, it hasn't been that. It's been, dude, beat Ohio State or Michigan like once. So I think that's kind of where the difference is whoever the next guy is. I don't know if it's not national championship right away like it might be at like Bama or Georgia. But this year was. So I think that's where it's like it kind of crosses the expectations. I don't think that guy that gets hired, I think he'll have some time. I mean, if you have a big win in the next couple of years, fans are going to love you even if you're 9-3, which, yeah, it is what it is.
I agree. Expectations were national championship this year. I think that was foolish in hindsight because you think they lost their best offensive player in Tyler Warren. They lost their best defensive player in Abdul Carter. And then on top of that, all the guys that were returning, how good were they really? Drew Aller, yeah, he was a first-round prospect.
Drew, yes.
How good was Nick Singleton?
Something had to have gone wrong. You can't. He was a, I don't know what, 1,100, 1,200 yard rusher that last year.
Singleton?
Yeah. It's crazy to go from that to what's happening this year. So that's where
he's always been outplayed by the other guy.
But that's where I disagree with the expectations. Obviously, in hindsight, were stupid. But I blame the coaching staff. I think not getting big guys up front. The D-line, I think, is the big thing. Teams are running all over them. They're not big up front.
But once again, the expectation shouldn't have been national championship. This is a team that's better on paper than what they're playing right now. This was way overblown. The quarterback is not as good as we thought. The running backs are good, but not as good as we thought. The wide receivers that transferred, they're not great. And then you lost your 2 best players from the year prior.
Right.
This was not a national championship roster. This isn't a lose to UCLA and Northwestern roster, but this is a team that should not have had national championship aspirations.
Agreed.
Or expectations, I guess, not aspirations.
Agreed, but to go from the semifinals and bring back 14 starters, even with the guys losing those 2 guys, you can't. it had to be play. At
You
least,
can
like,
only
make the run.
you can
they
only
did
play
last
who
year.
was in front of you, but they were not the third or fourth best team in football last year. They weren't.
I think they were. I don't think there were many great teams though.
But they were not third or fourth best.
I think they were argued. I think top 5 is fair. Third or fourth, sure. Like throw Oregon in there.
Oregon, Ohio State,
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame.
Like Georgia looked bad at the end, but they were Beckless. But Beck didn't look good. Texas looked.
But Ewers wasn't healthy.
So that's the thing. It's like, I think last year was a weird year, and Penn State took advantage of that. You know what I mean?
So they were 5th at best in a bad year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So
right.
like I don't know.
But I wouldn't be surprised if this year, in hindsight, was like a quote unquote bad year. Like, we'll see how good Miami is in the end. It's so hard right now.
Yeah, Miami and Ohio State and pretty much everybody else.
Right.
Like Indiana and Oregon, I think, are both. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Oregon ends up being the better team than Indiana.
Unless Oregon sucks.
I don't know. I'm not ready.
It's just weird because it's like Penn State. That's the thing is like UCLA loss was a bit of a hangover, but it's also just they weren't good. Penn State, like they didn't look good in their first 3 games against those crap opponents. They struggled with FIU. They ended up whooping them, but it was a struggle for a while. They couldn't run the ball consistently, and they were getting run on consistently. So it's like, is Oregon? I don't know. We'll see what Oregon ends up being, but it's just one of those where I think Oregon will be fine. They'll go 10-2 at worst, but and probably be solid in the playoffs. But we'll see.
All right, let's close this out with some other coaching candidates. Kurt Signetti and Matt Campbell are the other 2 that have been getting a lot of hype. The argument that I've heard for Signetti, and I would say it's the same thing for Matt Campbell, the programs that both of those guys have built / are building are worthy of getting a statue in a field named after you. So I don't know if either one of them leave it. Because Iowa State, they're having a down year, but also their whole entire secondary's out. They lost 2 wide receivers to the NFL. Like, Rocco Beck comes back next year, they're fine. Like, they're going to be right back in the swing of things as long as they're healthy. Indiana, it's hilarious. Like, it's amazing. Like, everybody's cheering for Indiana.
Matt Campbell scares me a little. I would prefer someone from the Big Ten or SEC. Signetti is like, I mean, he might be the greatest coach alive, like ever to exist. Like, this is insane what he's doing at Indiana. Just go on Indiana's Wikipedia page and like look at their season history going back the last 70 years. Like, it is crazy what he's doing there. I agree with you that like everybody's rooting for Indiana. I think everybody plus some would be rooting for him if he wasn't so like, he's so outlandish, which is fun because he's winning.
Yeah, I like him.
But he is nutty.
So something I can do for the NFL that I want to see if you can do for college, I can separate my Steeler fandom with being a fan of the NFL. Kurt Signetti being at Indiana is better for college football than him being at Penn State. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
So like,
but I want Penn State to win a national championship.
Yes, yeah.
More than that.
Yeah, it would be like Andy Reid going to the Steelers doesn't really make sense, but like it would help.
Yeah.
So, other names, Clark Lee. I saw somebody, and I think they even acknowledge that this makes no sense. But oh, she's just doing tape. There's a stigma around hiring a Vanderbilt coach. It doesn't necessarily make sense, but I agree that there probably would be with hiring Clark Lee. Also, as good of a job as he done, you can come in, Mom. As good of a job as he's done,
there's a ceiling. You're saying?
Yeah, and I think as good as he's been, you can't overstate how good Diego Pavia has been and how instrumental. Scout, come in. The door's open. But I don't know. What are some other names? You laughed, obviously. I saw John Harbaugh listed.
So my dad has, you're going to like this. I meant to tell you before, honestly. My dad has a list of coaches that if they were hired, he is not getting season tickets. Which is, it's just like a funny, like I could see Gary doing like a list of like, I will not be, so, I mean, not that we wouldn't be fans, but names like Urban Meyer, like that's just like, no.
Are there
I don't
any
care about
realistic
national
names where they
championships.
all obscure,
Yeah,
like an Urban
like
Meyer?
I mean, obscure-ish. So
You can't give up.
like
You
the
guys have a
Kellys,
streak going.
Brian Kelly, he'd be like, nope, we're not getting him. Um, Chip Kelly, he hates.
Well, because when you mention Kelly's, Chip Kelly's under a lot of fire right now in Vegas.
Yeah, he hates.
I could see. I don't
I
know.
do not want that, but I could see Kraft making like some, try to get a home run higher, a guy that won or been to the Natty and.
Manny Diaz is a guy I like, but if they hire him, that's an underwhelming hire for as good of a job as it is. Like you and I were joking, like the one guy who was arguing with me that Wisconsin was an A-tier job. Like, yeah, it's a good job, but if that's an A-tier job, how many A-tier jobs are there? Like
Manny, you can't hire the guy who was just on the staff of the guy you fired. He was just under the guy you fired. Manny's good. He's a good guy at Duke too, and I think Penn State fans want something aggressive, and if we are getting a guy that's known for his X's and O's, it's got to be on the offensive side.
it's not Kiffin.
Kiffin would be like the crazy fun, but
it makes no.
Kraft will literally unload the bag on anybody. So I'm honestly not discounting any. And
I
don't think so. Not close to zero, but it's just Kiffin's just such a wild card that but
for the SEC, he Florida or Bama is his end game.
No, I agree. I don't think so, but I mean, you just never. Kiffin could be like, I'm going to coach Pee Wee football, and you'd be like, sure, it's Kiffin.
Bill O'Brien, but the way Boston College looks, no,
he won't go back to him.
I hate the idea of a coordinator. Like, coordinators being hired as a coach in the NFL makes a lot of sense. Arbuckle or Will Stein, that does nothing for me as a coach. Especially because one of the few things that I think college is better at, or at least more entertaining, is the coaching carousel because it is so obscure.
Yeah.
Like,
Fran Brown's
UNLV having Dan Mullen's hilarious. And what do you know? They're 6-0.
Yeah.
They're not a great 6-0, but they're 6-0. So stuff like that is why I love college football. Arbuckle and Will Stein's boring to me.
Yeah, Fran Brown's been thrown around just because he's a Jersey guy and he's up the road.
I don't know if you could sell Penn State on that. Maybe after last year, not this year. Syracuse isn't good enough this year, and it's not their fault. Their quarterback's out, and they have a monster of a schedule.
I think Kraft's in for Rule or some crazy. Obviously, like Belichick. I think 4 weeks ago you'd be like, oh, but no chance. See that would be a no season ticketer.
The greatest coach of all time, even if it doesn't. You guys have a streak going of season tickets. You can't just burn that up.
We're not. I don't scumbags. Urban Meyer.
Really?
Urban Meyer's.
All coaches, especially college football coaches.
But then there's groping teenage girls and.
What about touching little boys?
Yeah, Jerry Sandusky, terrible scumbag. If Jerry Sandusky's the next head coach, I promise you we will not be getting season tickets. That's what I'm saying. That's where I think Urban Meyer's a scumbag, and I don't know.
All right. Any other names that you want to throw out there?
I think Hartline's just gotten word, but I mean, I think he's.
I don't know how he doesn't have a job. It's ridiculous. Unless he is truly just denying.
If there are options, but. And it's you just never know what's going on behind closed doors. What is he doing at Ohio State? He's got it. I mean, he is the one of the best recruiters of all times, according to the sites.
Exactly. But, that alone, shit.
Right. It's like the Fran Brown thing. Fran Brown was one of the
best
recruiters
for on
at
steroids.
Georgia. Right. And then got the head coaching job. The interim coach has zero shot, Terry Smith.
Yeah, I heard that they were giving him a chance. I'm like, yeah.
Oh, yeah, he just said it in the press conference. We'd love Terry to run the... Yeah, I think Kraft said, we'd love Terry. They asked, and he's like, we'd love Terry to run the table. That was about it. One last thing. One thing that fans gotten really frustrated with, myself and my dad included, at Franklin is his press conferences they've always been very coach speaky, which I understand isn't necessarily a Franklin thing, it's a coach thing. But it would be like, hey, Northwestern, they seem to be able to run the ball for 4 yards every carry. What was the issue there? You guys aren't going to like this, but I'm going to have to watch the tape. It was very nice, and Terry's opening press conference, they asked, "Hey, like, what's going on? What happened?" And he said, "We need to get our swagger back." In this day, and he like specifically mentioned in this day and age, quoting NIL pretty much, like you have guys that aren't as motivated, and you need to get that swagger and that intensity back. And then he specifically said we have to get better on the front. We're not getting off blocks. Our O line's not good enough. That's what we're focusing on this week is the line. And that was just refreshing. Again, like it's not Franklin's fault, it's coach speak thing. But you would never get that from Franklin. He'd be like, I have to watch tape. Monday he'd get asked about it and be like, I'm not gonna get into the X's and O's with you guys, but we're gonna figure it out. But it was just very refreshing to hear an interim coach say, hey, we're not playing good football right now. These are the reasons, without even getting into the specifics, but at least he's mentioning specific players and stuff, or at least units, which was nice to hear.
The opposite of coach speak, and this is something that I have been finding hilarious, is Mike Tomlin is being so candid, where it is like, it's not only opposite of Tomlin, it's opposite of everything. So we've referenced it here on the pod, him basically saying, yeah, Joe Flacco is 10 times better than Anthony Richardson. Mm-hmm. Make sure Anthony Richardson stays in the game. Sure enough, Anthony Richardson gets hurt and Joe Flacco beats the Steelers. Hopefully not a preview of Thursday. Then, I don't know if you heard, he basically just name-dropped Andrew Berry and was like, I don't know what this guy was thinking, trading your day one starting quarterback for a late-round pick to a division rival. He's like, maybe I forget the exact phrasing, so we'll look at it here after. But he is just taking no prisoners. He is slaughtering everybody. It's hilarious. No chill. I don't know if he's just getting old and senile, but I kind of like it. It's at the very least entertaining, giving lots of bulletin board material to everybody. And finally, this is not going to be the last time that we have a emergency episode. Josh Pate said it, and I'm sure you as a loyal Josh Pate listener heard it. There's a lot more coming down the pipeline, and some of it we can kind of see, whether that's Florida, Wisconsin. Those are the two that have been kind of hanging around. UAB, a smaller one we just heard. He said that there's more that we aren't thinking of. Auburn and Hugh Freeze, seems like that's probably ending here very quickly. Florida State, they've lost 3 straight, like the last 7 in conference play. So yeah. Mike Norvell, other than one season, has been a disappointment at Florida State. There's going to be a lot more emergency episodes. There's going to be a lot more firings. Yeah, we're going to have fun with it. So, episode 1 of the doubleheader. Stay tuned.